Hi, welcome back to another video. This video is going to be different. This video is going to be a bit of a taboo topic, right? This video is about death and the finality of life. People often, it's like you can't speak about it in this day and age. And with this information I'm about to share with you, it's the whole point of this spiritual journey, or this inward journey, this self-inquiry, is to liberate you, is to break off the shackles of ignorance, of delusion, is to break off those shackles and find out your true nature, right? So this isn't merely theoretical and intellectual gymnastics, this is applied wisdom. So with this wisdom that I've been digging my head into, and I'm still a student of the game, this certainly alleviates not only suffering, but the fear of death and anxiety and depression. So this whole information, this self-inquiry, this inward journey to the self, to the spirit, the communion with the divine, yoga means to link, to unite, to be in union with what? With your higher self. All this information is to liberate you from suffering, liberate you from the fears that you might have. Now, this society actually doesn't want you to be spiritually awake. It's very hard to find spirituality in this society. And it's no coincidence that depression, suicide, anxiety are at an all-time high, because we've lost track as a society of our true, innate, divine nature, our higher nature. Life isn't about higher states of consciousness. We're distracted, essentially. So with that being said, back to death. Death is inevitable. It's going to happen to everybody. It's a cycle. It happens to every living thing in this world. There's the creation, there's the maintenance, and then there's the destruction. So where we go wrong as a society, and why our fear of death is so high and it's so taboo, is because we mistake ourselves for this body and this mind. We think we are this body and this mind and this ego, right? So let me break down those concepts. We can't be the body, because the body is always changing. Think about how big my hand was when I was a little toddler. Now, from toddler to boyhood to adolescence to man, and then eventually to old man, just like you saw on that first image that I uploaded at the start of the video. That's the cycle of life. Now, this body is constantly changing. So what is changing all the time? It can't be me. My true nature, my true essence is changeless. The body is constantly changing. It can't be me. The body can't be me. This is just flesh, bones, blood, ligaments, muscles. You know what I'm saying? So it's foolish to identify myself so strongly with the body, because it's perishable. It's going to die anyway. Now to the mind. The mind is changing every, 10 seconds? Just sit down and meditate and watch your mind. It's always changing. It's constantly changing. And your values change from when you were a teenager to a man, to an old man. Your values are going to change. So your mind, the way you see the world, the way you project yourself through your mind is always changing. Now, what is not changing is the self, is the witness, the observer, the watcher. There's been something consistent throughout your whole life, since you were a toddler, a boy, a young lady, and it's always watching you change. That is the true you, that is the true essence, that is your higher self. Now, the practice of yoga and the science of spirituality is to uncover the muck, uncover all this muck that you've accumulated on all these years on who you think you are, and go beyond the ego and figure out your true nature. And once you can find your true nature, your true self, then you can start to become blissful and realize that you're so lucky to be a human, and then joy and bliss emerges. So all these things you've learned, ideologies, education, philosophies, go beyond that. You are not those things. These are things you've learned, still useful, but these are the things you've learned. It's not you at your true self. The whole purpose of spirituality is to find out who you are. You know, if you ask what I am, that's a scientific question. Who am I? That's a spiritual question. Okay, so when you first think about death, initially you might get anxiety, depression, but after a while, through correct understanding and practice, spiritual practice, a tremendous sense of freedom will come, and you'll feel this joy and exuberance for life. So at the time of death, you're just dropping the body. The body isn't you. We've established that. The body is not you. That's why do not get so attached to this face. And again, we live in a day and age of ignorance because everyone's trying to promote their self-image, and they think, I'm worthless if I'm not handsome, if I'm not beautiful, if I'm ugly, I'm worthless. Everyone has these hyper sensitivity around their faces, but it's not good to hold the body so tightly. And if the body is all you know, at the time of death, shocks will come because all you've lived in is the body. You haven't tapped into your non-physical part, your higher self, your higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. God self, if you want to call it that. So you're not the body, you're just dropping the body at the death. So you're having this human experience now. Actually, this is another reason why death is no fear. You've come from nothingness. You've had this human experience, right? It's 80 years. We've been very lucky to have this human experience, right? And we're going back into nothingness. So in many ways, you've been from nothingness and you're going into nothingness. This is death, right? You've already not existed and you're going to be non-existent again. So don't fear. You've already been to that place, that void of nothingness, essentially. So that's the first point I'm trying to make. Now this is interesting. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Buddha. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was a prince, and he turned to the spiritual life after realizing that we're all going to die one day. You know, one day he was asked, what did you gain from meditation? Meditation being the spiritual search. What did you gain from it? And this guy was asking you in quite a skeptical manner, like, what did you even learn from meditation? And Buddha zenned out, right? He said, I gained nothing from meditation. And everyone's like, ha, see, he's a fool. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not enlightened. And he goes, I gained nothing. But let me tell you what I lost. I lost anger, jealousy, depression, insecurity, and fear of old age and death. Wow. That's what he lost from meditation. He lost fear of old age and death. How is that possible? And how is that related to meditation? This is what I'm saying at the start of the video. He found the self. He found the non-physical part of himself. He found his spiritual nature, right? And he so strongly identified with his spiritual nature that he looks at his body as no more than flesh and blood. He's not even attached to this body, this form. And so many of us are attached to this body and the form, and it's causing us endless suffering. So Buddha reached that place of liberation, that place of nirvana, that place of enlightenment through constant and spiritual practice and learning through different schools of thought at the time, to the point where he knew himself to be the self, the spirit, the soul, right? That's a beautiful place to be. I think that's the whole spiritual journey, and I think that's such a worthy pursuit in this life.